Okay, so I want to talk about graphs of inverse functions kind of in general. But specifically, I'm using the example y is 10 to the x. What's the inverse function for y is 10 to the x? Or y of x?
Log base 10.
Yeah, this should be the log base 10, right? So y inverse of x should be log base 10, and I said I was inputting an x, so I better be inputting an x. Maybe it would make more sense to say of y's, right?
Maybe.
Okay, so I would like to figure out how to get the graph of an inverse function. And for this, I'm going to envision this point here. I'm going to write over here. That point there is on the graph, right? Which means it's a what comma what?
It's an input-output pair.
It's an input-output pair. So specifically, right now, that's some kind of x and
Y. Y of x. A 10 of x. 10 to the x. Oh, why am I
okay. So that's a point that's an x comma f of x, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When I think about the inverse function, what's going to happen with those 2 points?
They're going to switch.
Yeah, they're literally just going to switch spots, right? So this is on y, and then on y inverse, there's going to be a point that looks like 10 to the x comma x, right?
So true.
So you need a way to switch the x's and the y's, right?
Can you flip it over the x, y?
That's why I brought Zach up here. Can you figure out a way to flip the x's and the y's? Okay, so that seems like the x's are where the y's were and the y's are where the x's were. Yes!
Yes! Gah!
Usually that takes longer,
Gah!
right? Usually when we try to do this, everybody flips it kind of one way or the other way, right? It doesn't occur to take 2 corners and rotate around the corners.
There's a method to that.
Yeah, so the method is to flip over the
Y equals x axis.
the line y equals x, right? Which is going to interchange the x's and the y's. You guys cool with this? So this here is your graph of logarithm.
Yeah.
Now, what's the domain and range of that thing?
Okay.
Can you guys read the domain and range off the picture here?
Yeah, so it's all the x's that it can contain, just like all of those ones.
And it can never be 0.
This one,
Why?
x can't be negative.
Oh wait, x.
Yeah, so remember I flipped everything, right? So in the x's, right, in the domain, it can't be negative or 0.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
There's
Well,
no
this thing's-
data there.
Yeah, this thing's supposed to undo the 10 to the x function, right?
Mhm.
10 to the x can't give you anything that's negative or 0.
Mhm.
So this thing can't un anything that's negative or 0,
Mhm.
right? Because it doesn't know how to get it. You guys see that? Okay. And the range is all real numbers.
Yeah.
Because the domain of the 10 to the x function was all real numbers.
Yeah.
You guys see that? It swapped the ranges and the domains because it's an inverse function. You guys cool with this? Okay, cool. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, I don't think that happens.
No, you can just put it up here.